I swore up and down to Hecate, Aradia, and the Morrigan, and any other god willing to listen, that I would never, ever, ever cover this stinking, infested 6-month-old chamber pot ever again. I hoped that these damn producers would have learned their lesson by now, but no, they clearly haven't. Why does this keep happening to me? Hello, my little ravens, and welcome back to the chilling adventures of Sabrina, Season 3. Kill me now. It opens aptly, let's say the least. Welcoming us to hell that is this series. Only kidding, it was a dream in which this glowing orb of fire welcomes Sabrina to actual hell and having to escape Goaty McAngry Goatface, aka her bloody father. Well, Sabrina does what she does best. Moping. Everyone else is also recovering from the aftermath of Father Misogynist Blackwood, and Sabrina, of course, is determined to find ways to upset the balance of the natural order of things. As usual, the show attempts to soil the good names of many a person, historical or mythological. Up first is the poet Charles Baudelaire. Dorian Gray demands Sabrina bring back the Fleur du Mal, which supposedly inspired, quote-unquote, the work of the poems in 6 different categories, which made Baudelaire get a fine of 300 francs. The work was suppressed and forbidden from being published again until 1949 or something like that. However, I will note that they used the exact flower that is depicted on the covers of Baudelaire's work, so I think they get 1 extra bonus point for that, but let's just say that's not much. When Salem protests, still in meows and not in words like Stolas did once, that he has to sit out of going to hell, Sabrina mentions 2 supposed quote-unquote hellhounds, Barghest and Old Shuck. Barghest was a being from Northern English folklore and has stories that originated in both Northumberland and Durham. Old Shuck is from East Anglian folklore and sometimes is seen as an ill omen but also as a companion, something that the writers clearly omitted. Well, they omitted a lot of things and dragged a lot of things through the poop, so I am not surprised that they decided to do this to English folk dogs. Hell is getting better treatment than I thought, actually. The show attempts to make some creative punishments, such as drowning for eternity and crucifixion, mental torture in the Forest of Torment, and the gang gets sidetracked by Jesse Putnam's soul, which if you, and I will forgive you for this, forgot from either Season 1 or Season 2, because quite frankly I wasn't paying attention largely, because why would I? And naturally the gang was like, oh, we have to get his soul out of hell! You do realise he had a demon inside of him? No, you conveniently forgot that. Do you really think that wouldn't have ravaged his soul? Plus, he made a deal with fricking Lilith, despite the fact that he didn't know he was making a deal with Lilith. That does something to one's soul, you know. Speaking of the new Queen of Hell, she's none too happy that they are there, and next plans to pull this messed up Wizard of Oz trick without the Cowardly Lion and the Scarecrow and the Red Slippers. Basically a giant tin man with an axe. And then turns a secondary school into literal hell, having almost tortured Sabrina and her friends by demons who look like Principal Jackass and Rosalind's grandmother, which I have to say is actually kind of a neat trick for hell. It's kind of diabolical thing that I would do. The most interesting characters in this series, Prudence and Ambrose, they're still hunting Father Blackwood and they go to this voodoo witch for help. Zelda and Hilda barely convince the council of their lie with their little glamour and eat up my lie cake, and we learn a bit of how the worlds work. Apparently, a ruler of hell has to be recognized by Earth, Heaven, and the cosmos. It seems that hell is not entirely a place of complete damnation and rebellion as people have led to be believed. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Lucifer educates Sabrina on this and tells her to claim her birthright. Here we go again, as if becoming a queen of hell. Sabrina also takes up this hellish mortal hobby of them all, cheerleading. In episode 2, Sabrina has to take up the business of hell, dragging the souls down to this lovely inferno that is the pit. Her first soul was this chess master who is so imaginatively named Robert Robertson. Sabrina, being the foolish, empathetical witch that she is, sent the man to the hearse that is going to heaven, not hell. Cue pissed off Lilith and a very jubilant Caliban, who, by the way, is trying to usurp her throne and is too hot for a clay demon. Sol numero dos. Jimmy Platt the ice cream man, or should I say, ice cream man, a murderer of little children to be able to sell more ice creams. Using her cunning and using her magic, respectively, Roz and Sabrina locate the girl in a giant freaking freezer. Poor Nessie also gets a bad adaptation, to say the least. Due to supposed time magic, 15 years had passed in an instant for Mr. Blackwood. And not just him, Judas and Judith the twins as well, much to the surprise and shock and horror of Prudence and Ambrose. Sabrina gets trapped by sigils, Lilith is forced to save her and the child, and it was a very satisfactory end for this murdering ice cream man being dragged to hell with damn satisfaction. Get it? Get it? Not funny? Okay, fine, suit yourselves. So Carnival rolls in. Yippee! As if I need more reasons to hate a fricking carnival. After awkward chats with a side of Inquisition, Sabrina tries to escape only to be dragged down to hell for business. Caliban, Prince of Puffcakes, gets 666 signatures, very bloody original writers, and Sabrina is forced into a quest for the unholy regalia. As if to make matters worse, the coven is falling apart at the seams. Or out of the air in the case of Gerald. Sorry. Naturally, it would not be an episode without unnecessary teenage romance, and in this time round we have Theo crushing on the new quote-unquote transfer student, Robin, and Harvey getting jealous for no bloody reason. As if I don't need any more reason to hate this character as it is. Sabrina enlists the help of Ambrose for the crest, and because of this we have a short crossover into another of Netflix's more questionable series, Riverdale. According to Ambrose, the last person who had the crown of Herod, which was the first unholy regalia that they had to find, was Benjamin Bloody Blossom, who took it from Hitler's bunker in 1945. Seriously, what is it and people using Hitler with every single magical cursed item or monster? It's too easy up at this point. Understandable, but still too easy. I had half expected 1 or 2 people from the Riverdale team to show up. I would have literally given anything for Betty Cooper and her group of little friends to appear for 5 seconds to momentarily see Sabrina and Ambrose in the woods. There are so many little Riverdale and Greendale crossovers at this point in both series that it would have made sense. Anyway, let's continue. Instead, the freaking zombie of Herod comes out of the damn tree that they find the crown in and heads to the Spellman house after pulling a freaking golem. My precious. Sorry. Naturally, the carnival is, as I said, supernatural. What do you know? The carnival master is a freaking satyr! Well, worse, no, that was my initial reaction, actually. On a happier note, Hilda got proposed on a pentagram. That's not going to misspell misfortune. Well, usually it doesn't, but anyway, this show is determined to drag pagan culture in the mud. So, anyway, the fortune teller, I thought it was perhaps either Morgana Le Fay or Medea at that point, without, the spoilers. Herod crashes then the Tunnel of Love, Caliban steals the crown and the glory, and Nicholas goes on full asshat mode. You know how I continuously lament how every aspect of pagan life and tradition is being demonized? Well, Season 3 adds insult to fucking injury. The freak shows from the carnival call themselves pagans! At this point, I wanted to scream bloody murder. And it only gets worse from here. As if the poor women from Pendle Hill haven't been insulted enough over the centuries. They're now used as the example that Ambrose found to explain the waxing and waning of the Coven's magic. That they upset the giant toad toddler and thus lost their magic and were discovered and executed by the witch hunters. Well, first of all, witch finder General Hopkins only found the supposed coven due to the freaking teenage daughter claiming to accidentally curse the man who refused to buy from her. So if they lost their powers, the girl could not have done so, and thus not only do the writers need a more creative history, they actually need to read up on actual history first. Furthermore, mythology as well. As I suspected, Madame Slithers is Medusa, or a Gorgon at least. Well, it could have either been a Lamia or a Naga with how she was represented. And somehow this one has the power to turn both men and women to stone. Okay, I suppose there is now not actual evidence that Medusa was not able to turn a woman to stone. But really? Come on! I thought that at least there would have been one itty-bitty little side point to Medusa's stone-turning powers. That women might have been immune to it. Oh, come on, people. Mr. Transfer Student also has a flipping trick up his sleeve, quite bloody literally. He's Robin Bloody Goodfellow. For those of you unfamiliar with Shakespeare, he is better known as Puck from A Midsummer Night's Dream. He is a fairy who delights in mischief and typical impish tricks expected from a fairy. Do we get to see that? Not really. Anyway, Ambrose and Sabrina go to hell to try and find a bloody answer, where they find the obvious one. Lucifer is an angel. His power is celestial, not infernal. Have you read your freaking scriptures? Come on, people. They should have put 2 and 2 together. It's not that bloody difficult. They go back to Dorian's grey room to look for that angelic witch hunter that Dorian had locked away in a portrait for an answer. Dorian, the vain idiot, almost drinks all the blood that they siphoned from this angel. Then Ambrose has to come up with another solution. Angel blood multiplied by moon power. Only at the Hare Moon picnic, where they were supposed to be able to do this, the pagans crashed the party. And if there wasn't already a knife in the backs of us actual pagans, they shoved it in even more and twisted it into our ribs by an equivalent of the Christian versus pagan jab fight with Whom Do You Pray To and We Were Here First. God, I wanted to throw my laptop out of my bloody window when I saw this. Oh my God. Well, at least it's not a complete disaster at first. Hilda, out of all the others, tries to actually get along with the pagans, having a decent conversation with the fortune teller, and accidentally let slip that she keeps spiders as pets, got a spell put on her, because Circe take things too bloody personally. I know classical languages, and that spell was a clear indication that Hilda was going to be turned into a bloody spider. Are these writers confusing Circe with Athena? Better not, though I would not be surprised at this point. Dorcas once again tries to seduce Nick again, gets bitten by a snake, Nick kills said snake and pisses Medusa off. Dorcas in retribution gets turned to stone, Agatha's driven mad by bloody Pan himself. Yippee! The pagans ruined thus the Hare Moon ritual through eating the pie that the satanic witches sent in offering of reconciliation, and I'm going to ask you all to think about this question. How in the name of flipping Selena's shining moon chariot do you think you can eat up the freaking moon? Tides would have flipping changed. It would have messed with the balance of everything. Oh my God. You know what? Never mind. This show sucks. We've already established this. Nick screws up big time. The hordes of hell congregate in the academy for the second challenge of the damned quest. Pontius Pilate's ball. And while captured, Sabrina and Caliban get an explanation by this guy called Barabbas of the perverse process. Sabrina burns Caliban to the point where the demon actually has a moment of reflection, and to the point where he takes 100 lashes to save Sabrina from being debased. Long story short, she gets the ball, has to leave Caliban behind, and is declared the winner of that particular challenge. For once, I actually like how this series used Stonehenge. Instead of trying to give credence to the false claim that the stones were a druidic site, the writers have acknowledged that the stones do have a supernatural energy and used it quite creatively as the solution of or at least a possible solution for finding a new source of the Coven's magic. And then Circe finally uses her trick that she's famous for by turning some boys who raided the carnival into pigs. Wow, writers, you actually got something right. Good on you. So, Robin and Theo come to help, but they are too late. Nick breaks up with Sabrina, surprise, surprise, because no show is complete without the necessary breakup. Hilda enforces my arachnophobia even more. The hedge witches are not too happy about being summoned, but fortunately the voodoo witch Mambo Marie, who helped Ambrose and Prudence, has a functioning brain and ensures that no fighting takes place. Caliban proposes to Sabrina. Quite frankly, she should have taken it. So they capture Circe. Zelda has to shoot Hilda. Zelda's shot by the real Mary Wardwell. Things go to shit. Let's leave it at that. Okay, so we have Caliban finally betraying Sabrina. Everything goes even more to shit. Nick gets turned to stone. Robin gets murdered. Harvey sacrificed. And there's a lot of time traveling crap. And Vlad the Impaler, the Centurion from Pontius Pilate's time loop, and Herod the zombie assist with the spell. That is still not something I'm over. I am not going to go into the details of most of this, but frankly, I am baffled about how poorly thought out this was. Oh, God. It only pissed me off even more when Zelda just realized that a witch's power were tied to the moon. Not just that, the 3 phases, the maiden, the mother, and the crone, and then had the war nerve to call on Lady Hecate's help to raise her dead sister again from the fucking cane pit. As High Priestess of Hecate, I keep my fucking damn goddess out of your damn shitty show. So the Coven eventually become the Order of Hecate. My murder inclination rose. Everyone is alive. The Pagans defeated. 2 versions of Sabrina are currently in the same fucking universe. And Father Insano sacrifices the fucking Cthulhu egg. As if we need more reasons for another season. I can't do this. Why did they insist on making a 3rd season of this nonsense? Everyone who I've ever shown this series to with a functioning brain hates it and can see how insulting it is to anyone who is pagan or satanic or even doesn't believe in anything or is just a historian. Some of these actors and writers have claimed to be pagan and that the spells on quote-unquote are based on real spells. I can tell you this right now, my little ravens. No self-respecting pagan or witch would have let Netflix do what they did to our culture. And quite frankly, I hope that they will bury this series to the ground where it belongs. This is all I'm going to say on the matter. I am going to upload more content, and until then, my little ravens, I have been the Raven. Blessed be to you all. Over and out.